Does the Immigration Service check out your social media when you apply for a benefit? Hi, I'm Jim Hacking, immigration lawyer practicing law throughout the United States at our offices in St. Louis, Missouri. I wanted to shoot this video to fill you in on some things that we've noticed and things that we've learned about USCIS and the State Department checking people out on social media. Here's a quote: "You never know, the day may come when social media will actually find someone that wasn't in the government systems we check." That's the approach that the federal government is taking when it comes to looking at your social media account. So if you're applying for a green card or applying for citizenship or trying to bring your spouse or trying to enter the United States, the USCIS and the State Department, all the agencies are actively checking out your social media accounts. For years, the State Department has been checking out people who want to come on the visa waiver program or on visas themselves. They've been asked to submit social media handles. That is, what's your account name for Facebook, for YouTube, for TikTok, for all those things. We know, based on readily available information, that the State Department is requesting that. They're using a form called a DS-5535. So there is no doubt that, at least at the State Department, that they are checking out people's social media. But we also know that they're doing it at USCIS. In fact, these government agencies are contracting with outside corporations, and they're gathering all this data, they're putting it all into a database, and they're keeping it on you long after your immigration case is over. So when you go to apply for an immigration benefit, you can pretty much count on the fact that they're going to go and check you out on all the social media handles. They're going to want to figure out what you're posting, what you're liking, what kind of videos you're watching, what podcasts you're listening to. It's really pretty deep and sophisticated what they can check. And the important thing is that they're keeping all of this in their databases. So it's a real concern for people who are trying to get a green card or for their citizenship. So this video is going to try to tackle all these thorny issues so that you are in the best position to get your case approved. One thing to keep in mind is that the federal government is a huge bureaucracy with lots of agencies involved, and that they also contract with outside corporations to gather this information, to store this information, and to use it against you when they can. So you need to be sure that when you're getting ready to apply for an immigration benefit, that you don't make some of these mistakes that we're going to talk about in this video. How did we get here? Well, first they said that they were doing this for national security concerns. They threw out words like terrorism and said, hey, if we're going to let people into the United States, we need security to check and make sure that these people are who they say they are and that they're following the rules and they're not bad apples that we're going to let into the United States. But as so often happens with the federal government, this quickly expanded into them doing it for everybody applying for visas, everybody applying for immigration benefits. And now it is very safe to assume that if you apply for an immigration benefit, they're going to check certainly on whatever is publicly available. And then we know also, in addition, that they're going to check things that they would need a subpoena for or some kind of warrant. We know this because we've had clients receive notices from social media providers like Facebook and YouTube saying that the federal agencies had requested information about what videos they were watching, what groups they were members of inside Facebook. And you always have to wonder, what are they using that information for? This is all interesting too, because back in February of 2017, the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security said there were lots of problems with this data gathering. And those problems included the fact that most social media posts, when it comes to immigrants at least, are in languages other than English. And they're using this software that's supposedly checking on social media, that's automatically reviewing the things that people post. And the software is just not sophisticated enough when there are over 7,000 languages across the world to properly vet and review all of the billions and billions of social media data that's generated on a weekly basis. So despite the fact that the Department of Homeland Security has concluded that it's not effective, they're still doing this. They're still going through and checking people's social media accounts. Here's what the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General said: that dedicating personnel to mass social media screening diverts them away from conducting the more targeted, enhanced vetting that they're well-trained and equipped to do. Now, we could argue about whether or not they're well-trained and equipped to do it, but the fact is they are doing this and they're taking resources away from traditional means of figuring out if people are entitled to the immigration benefit, and they're pouring all this money into working with private corporations to gather and store this data. So you can see why this plan is really ill-conceived, that if you're thinking about all these different languages that are spoken, all the slang that's used on social media, people don't say things. They might say, oh man, that girl's the bomb, or I'm gonna blow that place up, like saying they're gonna have a party. So what does that mean when the social media software is checking that out? That's going to lead to a lot of false negatives, and it's going to send inspectors down the rabbit hole of investigating people who don't really need to be investigated. For instance, what if there's an article about the FBI trying to lure young Muslim men into declaring their allegiance to ISIS? We know this was a reported case. The FBI got sued for this. And what if somebody liked an article about that? Well, are they targeting or signaling that they liked what the FBI did, or that they liked Muslim people joining ISIS, or whatever? So that's the problem, is the software is not sophisticated enough to be able to go through all the posts and figure out what is and what is not concerning. Turning our attention to USCIS itself, we know that the FDNS, which is the fraud unit of USCIS, is looking at people's social media. And like I said, they're looking at it at the beginning of the case, and they're looking at it before the interview, they're looking at it after the interview, and they're trying to find out if there's information in the social media accounts that's inconsistent with what you're telling USCIS. Now, our office is not interested in helping people, defraud the federal government. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is an invasive and intrusive use of government resources to come after people and to scour every single thing that they've ever said in the hopes of denying them their case. So FDNS, the fraud unit, they use databases like the Thomson Reuters Clear database to figure out what people are posting, to get background information about them, and then to start looking at their social media accounts. One other thing that they do is they use their database to connect individuals. So I've had situations where people were asked about other people's cases in their immigration interview, and that's really creepy and really sort of strange. The fact that they've connected people either through prior applications or more likely through social media, that they've started asking people about other individuals' applications. One major problem with this is that it's people that are from predominantly Muslim countries who get targeted for this social media scouring. And while you may say to yourself, well, I'm not a Muslim, so I don't need to worry about that, it's just the tip of the iceberg. They're gonna institute situations where they do this for everybody. So let's talk about the 5 major ways that we've seen the USCIS use social media against people. The first situation that we've seen is federal government officials looking at what YouTube channels the people applying for an immigration benefit have been watching. They check out what videos they watch, what they subscribe to, what they like, what indications they've given that they approve of the content in the videos. And then we've had people actually asked about their video watching habits in their immigration interview. So number 1 is they're checking out your YouTube channel. The second big avenue of attack is for them to look at Facebook and Instagram and to figure out if you are posting things that are inconsistent with your application. In other words, are you showing that you actually have a spouse? Are you showing that you have a real relationship? Are you showing to the world that you are in fact married? And there have been situations where, because of social media posts, people have either said that they were single and gotten in trouble for that by showing that they were really in a relationship, or that they're in a relationship and you can find no evidence of that on social media. So the second way that USCIS checks out people's social media accounts is by verifying what you've posted and seeing it compared to what you said in your application. When you apply for citizenship, certainly, and then a lot of times when you apply for your green card, we come across the third issue when it comes to social media, and that is, what groups are you a member of? So these applications typically ask what groups you're associated with, and if they compare your social media accounts to your applications, is it all going to jive? Is it all going to match up? Are you saying that you're a member of a group on social media but not in your application, or vice versa? That's the third way that this can come back and bite you, is if you're inconsistent in what you post versus what you put in your application. That can cause real problems for you. The fourth way that you can get into trouble with social media is really when you come through a port of entry. Now, we've had all kinds of people get in trouble either coming on a non-immigrant visa or an immigrant visa, who get into trouble when they try to enter the United States and Customs and Border Protection asks to see their phone. Now, the government has a lot more discretion in who they let into the United States and who they exclude. So this is a really crucial window of time when you're trying to enter the United States. So we've had people who had a visit visa but had either been texting or been messaging a significant other about coming to the United States to hang out and either get married, or we've had people who were texting or connecting through WhatsApp or other messaging devices that they were coming to the United States to work. So that's another way that people really get into trouble. It's when you come through the border and they ask to see your phone, and you open it up for them and they're able to see that you are either talking to your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your fiance or whatever, and that's inconsistent with what you said was the stated reason for your non-immigrant visa. And then the fifth easy way for the USCIS and other government agencies to check out your social media is just to simply check out what's publicly available. So you always have to be thinking about, what have I made private? What is actually public? And that's just like low-hanging fruit. And I think most officers, if they're interested, and importantly, if you have an unusual name and you're easy to find, they're going to find out whatever you've posted that you haven't hidden behind a wall. All right, so I promised you my 3 rules on what to think about when it comes to social media. And the first one is that if you are on the fence as to whether or not to post something, don't. That's a rule that I learned from my wife a long time ago, that if you are on the fence or if something doesn't feel right, just don't do it. Don't post it. There's no reason to post something that's stupid or dumb that's going to get you in trouble when you could easily avoid such trouble by not posting it in the first place. That's number 1. Number 2, you should assume that everything you post is public. Even though you might mark it as private, it should be assumed to be public. In other words, how would your mother feel hearing this read about you in open court or at your immigration interview? So assume that they can get it. If you're posting it on any kind of social media platforms, they can get a subpoena if they want to. They can get it informally, I believe, and they're tracking a lot of this stuff. So you should just assume that if you're posting it, they're going to get a copy of it. My 3rd rule is that as you get ready to apply for the benefit, start taking down anything that's inflammatory or could get you into trouble. Don't leave stuff up there for them to find. It's a whole lot harder to find if it's been deleted, certainly of the, what I said, low-hanging fruit of publicly available posts. But whatever you have up there, when you file, that's going to be fair game. So my advice would be, if there's anything questionable, just take it down before you file. The one last bonus is that there are some people on this planet who don't post very often on social. This can be its own problem. This can be its own problem because if you're not posting regularly pictures of you and your loved one, especially in the marriage-based green card context, that sort of cuts against you the other way. So it's sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So keep all these things in mind. Post, but post wisely. Post often, post consistently. And if you do these things, hopefully your case will get approved. We hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to check out our other videos on the green card process. We'll put a link here to those so that you hop right on. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd love to have you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.